Hi, everyone. Welcome to a lovely interview discussion with Jan. Hello, Jan.
Hi, Agnes.
Thank you for coming and joining me. You are
My
in
pleasure.
India at the moment.
Yes, I am.
Uh, yeah, and you have a wonderful success story. I actually contacted you because I'd seen a comment that you made on a video that I had done, and it was such a beautifully crafted comment that I said to you, would you contact me for an interview? So you did, and here we are. So, can you go back? We're going to start back on where you were, and then we're going to move forward, as
Right.
in what was going on that wasn't working relationship wise, self love wise, and then what happened that the wheels fell off, and then what you learned and where you are today. Can you take us back
Right.
on that timeline?
Sure. So to be able to explain my story, I've divided my entire story into three segments. One
Okay.
would be the relationship, uh, then the realization, and then I'd explain a bit about the recovery. Of
Yes.
course, the relationship happened, and then the process of recovery happened, and then came the realization. But
Beautiful.
just to be able to connect the dots well, I'm going to explain the relationship part. Then I'll tell you what I realized, and then I can give a bit of detail about how I recovered and the steps I took and things like that.
Beautiful.
Um,
That's very nicely structured. Fantastic.
okay, thank you. So, well, I before I was in India, I was actually in Europe for about 10 years. And then, well, I was there to do my master's, and then I happened to find a job, and then I moved to different cities and countries. I liked my life there. I didn't know if I really wanted to settle there or come back to India, but my heart was always here because my family lives here. So I always really was a little confused. And then something transpired, and then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go back to India. And at the same time, I was also actively looking for a relationship, and I knew that I wanted someone who's close to home, who was preferably in my hometown. Because if I did settle with this particular person, I would be able to, uh, you know, be closer to my family, my parents, my brother and his family. And I have a little nephew. I really love him to, I don't know if I can say love him to death, but I love him a lot. And so I really wanted to stay closer to home. And so I wanted someone who was also in the same hometown. And so the minute I decided that I'm going to pack up, I was extremely happy. I would pack up and come back. I was really happy. And then I was saying my goodbyes to all of my friends and then fulfilling all of my other wishes, like, visiting different places that I hadn't visited before. And so, basically enjoying the last few days, weeks, months, actually. It took me a couple of months to relocate. Uh, and you know, just as I had decided that I would come back, it so happened that one of my friends, she contacted me. She's Indian. She is well, speaks the same language as I do, and she's also kind of from my hometown. So she calls me up and she's like, "Hey, you know what? I have a friend that I would like you to meet. He's in the same hometown, and then he's looking for someone who is also in the same place, and I think you guys might hit it off. Um, and even if it doesn't, it's okay. It's always worth giving a try." And I've always been a big believer of, things happening for a particular reason. And so, it seemed like, the universe was conspiring to bring this person to me because I had just packed up. I decided to go back home because I'm up until then, I have, dated and I've been in relationships. Nothing really worked. And so it seemed like, wow, okay, this is something, this seems like it's moving in the right direction or a positive direction. And I said, why not? And I got his I reached out to him, and then we started chatting. And I was in the best of energies, because I was coming back, so I was excited. I was excited to be closer to my family. I was excited. Of course, I was sad that I'm going to be saying goodbye, but then this was like an active decision that felt right. So, my energy level was quite high up there. It was not this very sad energy. So I so naturally when I contacted him, I felt like, okay, uh this is like perfect, that we hit it off really well, and then we realized that we had quite a lot of commonalities between us, even uh down to the silliest of things. So for me, it felt quite nice. And then, he had a very similar cultural background, and this was quite important to me because uh, coming from an Indian background, our cultures are very strong. And then we have a lot of different cultures which are quite, um, how do you put it? It's very different, and they're very strong in their own way. And sometimes one culture does not necessarily get along well with the other culture. So I was pretty happy that he has a similar cultural background, similar values, uh, and similar experiences as I did. I mean, given the fact that I've been outside of India for quite a long time, I really wanted someone who's also traveled abroad, or, he's seen the world outside of India, so that he's not a frog in a well, so to say. So
Mm.
I really wanted someone of that sort. Uh, and he traveled quite extensively around Europe. Um, and then we had quite a lot of common things that we liked about European culture as well. Something like waste segregation. That was absolutely silly. And then when he mentioned, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then, naturally we started talking about sustainability and things like that. Before I completely moved back to India, I did briefly visit uh, for for 2 or 3 weeks in between, uh, to just be a part of my friend's wedding. And then I had, so at this point, we were just communicating via text and phone calls because he was in India and then I was back wherever I was in Europe.
Mm.
And so we started communicating. I said, hey, I'm coming down to India for 2 weeks. Why don't we meet up? We met we met twice, and then it went quite all right. And then by then, uh, he had ticked off all of my boxes. And so I think I was naturally gravitated towards him. And uh, even without realizing, or rather, I think it was kind of, I allowed myself to be gravitated towards him. And then I would say, I don't want to say I was in love, because I think at that point it was what's called as limerence. And then I was quite um uh, how do you say, I put him up on a pedestal, and I started to think, oh wow, this guy is amazing. And I would always see all of the positive things in him, and then I always uh, would try to uh, actively try to please him. And then even without understanding, I started to kind of put myself down. I started to think, maybe I'm really not worthy of him, because I somehow thought he was very good looking and I was not. And so for me, I started to, put myself down here and him high above, which was, of course, not right, because everybody is flawed in their own way. And then I started to look at him in rosy colored glasses. After we met in India, we uh, officially started to call ourselves girlfriend and boyfriend. I went back to India, and then we did this whole long distance thing for a couple of months. When we were in long distance, of course, it's not easy. It has its own challenges, given the fact that there's a time zone difference. That's one thing. Also, given the fact that I was saying goodbye and I had no job at the time, and I was also trying to look for a job here. And he was, just, of course, nice enough to help me find a job. As in, like, I didn't find a job through him, but then he would help me by providing some references and providing me a few job opportunities that have popped up in the city. So that was quite nice. And then also, he was nice enough to, like, keep in touch with me, consistently. But our conversations were always through text. And this is something I didn't like. I would always ask him, like, you know what, can we have video conversations or even phone conversations? Because there's so little you understand about the other person through text. You can, mistaken their tone, mistaken what they're saying. There's a whole lot of things, a whole lot of negative things that come up when you're texting or
Yeah.
conversing through text with each other. And but somehow he did oblige once or twice. When we did speak over the phone, it would last 3 hours, 4 hours, and that used to be exhausting for me. So I said, let's pace ourselves. Like, we let's contact each other every day just for 20 minutes, just to touch base on what we are doing, what's happening, and things like that. And also on his side of things, he wasn't having the best situation with respect to his job. And also at the time, his mother had just recovered from cancer, so she had to be under surveillance so that the cancer wouldn't relapse. And so he had a lot of things going on his side and on my side as well. And given the fact that there was this idea that he's much better than me, insecurity slowly started to creep up. But also the fact that, at some point, his ex contacted him. This was all right, that, it happens, sometimes the ex suddenly contacts, because even some other people that I had dated before, not necessarily an ex, they too started to contact me out of the blue. I think that's some sort of universal chemistry that happens, when you're in a relationship. All of a sudden, these
Mm.
people become attractive to everybody else.
Mm.
And so he was approached by his ex, and then I was also, being approached by many other people. But what I didn't really like about his side of things was that he uh, actively sought to communicate with his ex, in the sense that, but the thing was, he was honest with me. He said, hey, listen, she contacted me, and I decided to meet her. And for me, it felt very uneasy. For me, it felt like, why do you have to meet this particular ex? And besides, they had already broken up 2 years ago. And I didn't really find any meaning in this. But nevertheless, for me, I constantly thought that if I don't let him, be himself or do whatever he wants to do, it's like I'm not trusting him, and I don't want to be that person. I want to
Mm.
be that person who trusts. And so I said, do what you think is right. But honestly, and also, when this ex contacted him, he hadn't really told her that he was in a relationship. And I said, maybe you should have told her the very first time she started to get a little familiar with you and she wanted to, rekindle things. He said, yeah, well, I didn't want to rip the band-aid on her. I want to meet and tell her in person. And things didn't seem to match up. So I really was feeling extremely uneasy, and added to that, the insecurities, it messed me up quite a bit. And at the time, my health was also not the best, because I wasn't really taking care of myself. Nutrition wise, I would eat once a day, and then I would consume a lot of caffeine as well. So
Mm.
my sleep cycle was messed up. And I was in a very bad spiral, because when your sleep cycle is messed up, your anxiety is
Mm.
top there. And then added to that, if you're not eating well, that's like a whole lot of mess in your body, chemical mess in your body. And so there was quite a lot of things adding up, adding up, adding up. And then, um, and I really wanted to communicate with him. I wanted to tell, and then he would talk a bit too much about his exes. Then I mean, I couldn't take the amount of times he would bring up his ex. So for me, it was a bit too uncomfortable. But I thought, at least he's being honest about it, and I should probably listen. But I just felt really uncomfortable about the fact that he would bring his exes so much. Um, but anyway, uh, a couple of months passed, and then things started to really deteriorate between us. I really wanted to contact him and I used to tell him like, let's just sit and talk to each other over a call or over I would prefer a video call, but it would be nice even if we had a telephonic conversation just to clear things out. And at the same time, his mother's, because his mother was under surveillance, um, there were a couple of anomalies that came up with respect to her health. And so he was quite frustrated regarding that. I mean, um, it didn't, ultimately, it didn't, it didn't, her condition didn't get worse. But it's just that, there were a few anomalies in the blood reports, which kind of was a bit alarming. And so he was quite frustrated, and then he had his own thing going on. So I tried to be as understanding as possible, but nevertheless, I said, if you if you could take out at least a couple of hours in a week, then we can sort things out. But I somehow he couldn't find that time to talk to me, and then things slowly started to deteriorate. And just as I was coming back to India, while I was in transit, we broke up. And by then I was completely obsessed with him. Like the obsession was very strong. And I remember I was talking to one of my friends back there in Europe, and then I was dissatisfied. I was constantly ruminating about, the fact that he'd spoken to his ex, and then I was like, am I supposed to be okay? Am I not supposed to be okay? And then this friend of mine told me, like, Jan, listen, you should have first opened your head to this relationship before you opened your heart. I
Mm.
think, this was most important. But anyway, now that you've opened your heart, you just have to take care of yourself. I don't know what you're going to do. So, that came to my mind. And also the breakup was quite messy in the sense that I really wanted to talk to him once I was back just to clear things out. Even because we have friends in common, I even told him, like, listen, we have friends in common. We might bump into each other. And when we do, I do not want to look at you with a sour face or have any sour feelings between us. So let's just sit and part ways amicably.
Mm.
But somehow he didn't want to oblige. He said, well, sure, let's meet. And then he kept stalling and stalling. And then finally, when I was enraged, I said, you just keep stalling on meeting up and, giving me this closure. And I'm really enraged about it. And then he ended up blaming uh, the whole situation on me, saying, well, uh, this is all your fault. You just don't believe in me and blah, blah. And uh, he said a couple of things, and then that really hurt me. And then the I think because I'd still put him up there, I was wallowing in guilt and remorse, and I didn't stop and think for a moment. Uh, okay, maybe it's his fault as well, because if something didn't work, it means that both the parties have contributed to this whole situation. But instead, I put the whole blame on myself, and then I was completely guilty. I was remorseful, and then that's when, and then I just couldn't accept the breakup at all. It was quite heavy for me. Um, and that's when, so this was the whole relationship story. Um, Coming to the realization, I mean, it took me quite a lot of time to recover. Even though the relationship itself was about 6 months, the recovery took me close to 8 or 9 months. And then came the realization. And of course, through the whole recovery, I did a lot of things. And Agnes, you've been a huge support through the whole recovery process, especially your videos. And the whole realization that came to me was, of course, about self-love. I think it takes I don't know what's the word, but then it takes precedence over everything. Um, I
Mm.
mean, of course, I did realize self-love is important in bits and pieces, but when it hit me, it was like, of course, self-love is the most important thing. Um, and and the other thing that I kind of realized was that, I mean, I knew I was in this state of limerence, but then to just piece it all together so I've been a bit of a science person. So for me, I always want things empirically. If I had, uh, if I wanted to understand if I've gotten better, I wanted to understand it a bit more empirically. um, and so um, even the state of limerence was something I wanted to explore within me and ask myself, have I really gotten out of limerence now? And to be able to piece it all together, I like gone through a lot of these different videos and things like that, other YouTubers, which I'm going to mention a bit later. And then I came to the understanding, like a true realization that I was in this state of limerence, and then uh, I and now I come out of it. Now there is no such longing for that person, and I've also realized that I had given quite a lot to the relationship, to the person, way more than I had given to myself. And it seemed like I was making a rich person richer by not just emptying my pocket, but also borrowing a hefty sum from somewhere and then giving it to this person. I was in debt while I was trying to make a rich man richer. This was something I kind of realized. And I also uh, felt the final realization that I had was that the dynamic that uh, he and I had was, I mean, I don't really want to throw out words very casually, but it's just my opinion. I think we had a very toxic dynamic of that of a uh, limerent person and a narcissistic person. So that was a very toxic dynamic. uh, I mean, I don't want to call him a narcissist as is, because, of course, that's like a psychological term that you have to use with caution. But this is just what I felt. Um, that this dynamic was really not working for me. So this was, the huge realization that happened, and to come to this point of realization, um, I took a lot of steps. Of course, I started off with yeah, while I was in that limerent state, while I was obsessing over this particular ex. Um, of course, as the story goes, I really wanted to get back with that ex. Um, but the problem was I was in constant cognitive dissonance, in the sense that I did want to get back with him, but also not get back with him at the same time. And I didn't understand what was going on inside me. It took me a while to realize that I wanted to get back with this person only because I didn't get that kind of final closure. There was like a huge blow to my ego, that how could this person just walk away without really, like, giving me a closure, without taking accountability for his side of things, without telling me that I meant something in his life. How could this person just walk away? Um, so that was like a huge blow on my ego, and that's why I think that was what was kind of hooking me on to this person. then and during the whole process, I, of course, like I said, I there was a part of me that wanted my ex back. I just couldn't accept the fact that the relationship was over, and then this person is gone from my life. And so as I was just like in the process of breakup, um, I think there was some video that popped up. It was not your video, but then it was another YouTuber's video. And then I heard her story and I was like, oh my God, this gives me some hope. Probably there is some hope to get back my ex. And then that's when my whole journey started. Like, okay, there is a possibility to get back my ex. And then uh, I was just, stumbling upon one video after the other, and then that's how I came to your channel. I don't remember what was the first video that I watched of yours, but I remember being completely hooked onto all of your videos. Somehow, listening to your videos gave me some sort of a solace. The funny thing is, I would love listening to all of these uh, ex-back success stories, and then I wouldn't really like to listen to self-love success stories. And but here I am talking about how self-love has been, my savior. So I remember, uh, you know, uh, being completely I don't think I was obsessed, but then I think I just wanted to find some answer um, to uh, get that X back, or I think I just wanted to know how to just get out of this whole uh, overwhelming set of feelings that I was going through. Um, so uh, I mean, I remember listening to one of your videos, one of your interview videos with Dan Radio Style, and he's such a funny guy. I was in such a very low state that even though he's such a funny guy, all I could do was just smile when I would hear your conversations. But then I used to think, oh my God, look at Agnes, look at her laugh. You laughed from the bottom of your stomach. And I thought to myself, it's been such a long time since I've laughed like that, and I really want to laugh like that. I don't want to sit in this state for a really long time. And this was also one of the few things that I manifested during the whole recovery phase. So as I was thinking this, that I really want to laugh, just like how Agnes laughs in her videos. A couple of days later, uh, I met with some of my colleagues. I had just started working at a company. Uh, Also, my work was actually something I manifested during the whole process of recovery as well. So I met with a couple of my colleagues, and then we were supposed to be hanging out, not hanging out, but we had a company retreat actually. And for some reason or the other, I think one of them said something, and I burst out laughing. I laughed so much that my stomach hurt, my cheeks hurt, and that's when I thought back to one of your videos, and I thought, oh, I wished for it, and I'm glad that this is happening. I'm glad that I'm slowly getting out of this whole rut of uh, ruminating over what happened, why it is happening, and then all of the confused feelings that I had. So it was quite nice at that point. Um, and as I'd come back to India, my parents, I mean, I was visibly extremely low in energy, extremely low in emotions, uh, um, and everything, you know, lively, so to say. And my parents kind of noticed that my mom, she didn't really want to talk too much about it. She knew that I was going through something. And then she said, you know what, let's just take you to my health club. She's a part of a health club. And she said, just come with me. Anyway, you don't really have any work. You're uh, free, so to say. You're not. She didn't use the word jobless, but she said you're free right now, so might as well make use of your time. Just come with me to my health club. And then I'd gone there. I met with uh, the most amazing set of people. So these people kind of really helped me slowly pull myself out of whatever I was going through. Um, and I mean, I didn't really actively tell them what was happening, but nevertheless, they kind of noticed. And then, they tried their own little things to cheer me up, or, they put me in some sort of um, a regime, a routine. So my routine was supposed to be something like wake up at 5, and we had some sort of a 5 a.m. club where we wake up and we write down the things that we really want to manifest, because this 5 a.m. group believed that at 5 a.m. you'd have the highest amount of positive energy to be able to manifest. And so we would wake up at 5, write down the things that we really wanted to manifest. And then at around 5:30, we'd all exercise together. This was all online. And then eventually during the day, we'd all meet up, um, for brunch or so. And then we talk about different things, including health and whatnot. And then we would disperse. So this whole morning routine that I had kind of, supported me quite a lot. Um, and I would, at the same time, I would listen to your videos. And then I would also I did some of the meditations, and then I also did the Ho'oponopono uh, chanting. Um, Sometimes the meditations helped, but the other times the meditations did not have that much effect. But I think it's all right. Like, some things kind of click, some things don't click. I remember doing one of your meditations and going back to some of the comments, and then somebody said, imagine doing this meditation to the extent that you don't even want your ex back." And then I felt that, but I felt that at that moment, and then again, I kind of relapsed. I think I would have gotten over this whole obsession of getting my ex back much quicker had I not sidetracked and then gone into watching other videos, other YouTubers, to be honest. I'm saying this because I know that a lot of people, they're trying to find answers. Like, they're trying to do one technique after the other. They're trying to use all of these terminologies, 3D and Sabbath and whatnot, and they're just exhausting themselves. Like, I've been there. I emotionally exhausted myself trying to figure things out. And um, so came across I came across some really good videos, and I came across some really terrible videos. So some of the really wonderful videos that I came across were that of uh, understanding what narcissists are. And there is this YouTuber called Dr. Ramani. She is, I think, an expert in narcissistic psychology, and she explains really well. And so I kind of educated, like I said, I'm a bit of a science person. So I really wanted to know what was it that was going on in my head, because I remember waking up some days and thinking to myself, I just want to feel liberated from whatever I'm feeling, because this doesn't feel like me at all. Because I am by default a very cheerful person. And so I didn't like that I was in such a low state of energy. I was low in confidence. I was low in everything. Um, and so um, I came across Dr. Ramani's videos, educated myself on what narcissists are and what narcissistic relationships do to you and things like that. And I could relate to quite a lot of things. And then at the same time, I came across another YouTuber. His name was Dr. Tom Shelby. He is the author. He is a neuroscientist uh, who's, who talks specifically on the topic of limerence, and he is the author of a book called Smitten, I think. I've not read that book, but I did his videos too helped quite a lot because it helps you understand what the state of limerence is. Like, you can detach yourself from the whole limerence state and then you understand the whole neural pathway that's going on with respect to limerence or what you call as love addict. And it really helped me educate myself on my own situation. But nevertheless, because I was quite into the whole topic of manifestation, not that I don't believe in manifestation, I do believe that science and manifestation go hand in hand. I think, I don't know if you can separate the separate one from the other. Probably there's an overlap, or probably both of them are the same. But nevertheless, for me, understanding psychology was important as much as understanding manifestation. And for me, at some point I even came to the point where I I was wondering, do I even want to manifest? And I think that was a good point to reach because I know a lot of people, they just want to, they're in denial. They would probably be like, no, no matter what happens, I definitely want to manifest this person back into my life. Um, so the negative part about these uh, videos of manifestation from a couple of other YouTubers is that they keep enabling this whole cycle of limerence. There were times when I said, I'm tired. I just want to give up. But then there would be a pop up on my YouTube feed from one of these YouTubers that said, watch this when you want to give up. And then they'd be like, no, you're close. Only when you're about to give up, that's when your manifestation would work. And, it starts to make you think, oh, yeah, maybe, it pulls you back into this whole state of limerence. And that's terrible. Um, and a lot of these other YouTubers, they don't specify that loving yourself is way more important. Like you'd always suggested, 70% has to be self-love and everything else, manifesting X and manifesting a specific person, new person has to be, 30% or even less. And but I found that all of the other YouTubers, they don't really talk about this, and that's pretty sad. But also, I think they just want to keep people enabled in this whole situation for their own viewership, or just to keep their channel running, um, which I think is really toxic. And I really hope that people who are watching all of these would stop and question and ask themselves, is this really necessary? I think they should say, you know what, I'll come back to all of such videos before, only after I have taken care of this whole addiction that I'm in. And so I think I'd gotten to a point where I was exhausted. I would have really come out of this whole situation much earlier had I not come across these YouTube videos uh, that kept enabling me. But nevertheless, I came up to this point where I was exhausted, completely exhausted, and I told myself, okay, no more, that's it. Um, and when it came to, you know, visualization, I had my own visualization. There were a couple of affirmations that did help. I remember when I have to tell you about manifesting my job. So I spoke to you about, I'm sorry, I'm going, back and forth on my timeline, but I do hope that people are able to piece all of the dots together. Um, so I spoke to you about this 5 a.m. club, right? There were a couple of things that I really wanted to manifest. Um, One was, of course, this was like a golden opportunity for me. And then said, I want to manifest my ex back. I am doing this with my ex. We are doing this together and whatnot. But I also realized that I wanted to have a job. I was basically unemployed for quite a while at that point. So I decided to, uh, put this into words for manifesting. And I remember writing every day. I think I wrote for a month or so. Every day I would wake up at 5. It was not, I wasn't consistent. There were a couple of days that I didn't wake up, uh, early in the morning. But nevertheless, I was fairly consistent with this whole routine. So I would write down things like, um, I want a job. I'm working in a as this. I'm working in this particular role in a mid-sized company, and I am with an amazing team of people. I have the best boss, and then I'm earning this amount of salary, and I'm also getting to travel because of my work, and I'm gaining all of this experience. Plus, the job does a lot of justice to what I have studied and what I have worked on in my previous jobs. And so a couple of months later, I actually land a job that fits perfectly into this description. So I ended up getting the role um, of an application person. And then I do work in a mid-sized company right now. I have a really cool team that, you know, made me laugh my head off. They still do, keep me cheerful. And I really have one of the best bosses. And the salary that I'd asked for, I didn't say this specific salary, but then I said I want it in a range uh, between this and this. And then my salary is actually within that range that I had always asked for. And I also get to travel quite a lot because of my job. So, everything that I'd asked for in that, uh, manifestation checklist, it came true. And so that was one of the few things that kind of made me really happy. Um, so yeah, coming back to me being completely vexed about the whole process of manifesting the expat, I decided to just quit everything one day. I said, you know what, no more. And I would always have this feeling that what are people going to think? Look at me. I'm such a mess right now. What's someone going to think? And I remember expressing this with my mother. I think there was this situation wherein a friend of mine didn't respond to me quickly. I had asked them to just meet up or something, and then they hadn't really responded to me. I think they hadn't responded to me at all. So naturally, I think because I was in such a low confidence state, um, I started to think that this person hates me. They think I'm a failure, and all of this negative self-talk. And I went and expressed this to my mother, and she was like, "Why do you have to worry about somebody else thinks about you? I think it's important that you consider what your voice tells you. You should worry about what you think about yourself, not what somebody else thinks about you." And that was kind of an aha moment for me. I was like, yeah, sure, yeah, that's true. And that started to slowly build up. And then slowly I started to tell myself, okay, I'm not going to think about what the other person thinks of me, but rather I think it's important that um, let them be worried about what I'm going to think about them. That's how my confidence level rose up, to the extent that I started to think, well, in the whole transaction of uh, the relationship that I had, I'm an ex too. Let this guy that broke up with me manifest me back. Let me be that ex that he's manifesting back. Why should I be the person that's manifesting him back? Um, and so, I slowly started to get my confidence up and up and up. And there was this visualization, this thing that I had practiced, and I think that helped me quite a lot. So I would imagine myself outside myself, like as if there's a second John right in front of me who is looking away from me towards the ex, who's you know who's yearning for the ex. And then suddenly this person that's right in front of me realizes that I'm there, turns around and hugs me. So Jan hugs Jan. And so I would always think to myself, Jan needs Jan. Jan needs Jan, not the other person. I need me first, not the other person. So I would start to think of ways and means to try to make myself happy. And then I slowly enrolled into a dance class that I've always loved. Uh, I had already learned this particular form of dance for a couple of years and then I'd stopped. So I decided to go back because um, I dancing gave me some sort of an energy. It made me forget the whole world. And so I started to dance this particular form of dance. At the same time, in my health club, I started to teach dance to people. So it was like I slowly started to get better and better and better. And like I said, I really like to understand empirically if my state is getting better. Um, so I had come across some sort of uh, a chart which said uh, the most negative feeling that you can have is that of guilt and remorse. Up there is anger. Even anger is much better than having guilt and remorse. A neutral feeling would be that of indifference, and the best feeling you can have, or best state of mind you can have, is that of compassion. And so I would always compare and ask myself, how am I feeling? Am I feeling, guilty and remorseful, regretful of the whole situation? Um, and then as time progressed, I started to find that I was not guilty and remorseful, but I had graduated towards anger. I would feel intense anger. And I still took that feeling. I said, it's okay as long as I'm not feeling guilty and remorseful, because that's, down there. And so I took that anger. I used to feel intense amount of anger. It was a little too overwhelming because I was not that person. But then I said, it's okay. It's all a part of recovery. Let me feel anger. And then there was a point where I came uh, towards indifference. And then I'm at this place where I feel a bit more compassionate. So I really am happy that I've gradually graduated from these different levels of feeling, and then finally reached this state of compassion. And yeah, uh, and in between, um, I I remember I had quite a lot of thoughts running in my head. I was constantly ruminating, and I would write them down. I also had a friend that would listen to me, and I'm really grateful that I had this friend that would listen to me, because these ruminating thoughts would pop up, just randomly, and then I just had to talk to someone at that point, and I didn't want to keep bothering my parents. So I would write to my friend, and then she was extremely receptive. She said, Jan, just late on me. It's okay. I know what you're going through, because I would feel guilty that I'm going through the same thing again and again and again. And I'd be like, I should have been over this by now. It's already 8 months since the whole breakup and I'm still not over it. Why? And then she'd be like, just don't wonder why. Just talk to me, put your thoughts out. And then she would constantly tell me, yes, what you're feeling is absolutely, valid. And I'm glad that you have this sort of a self-realization, but you should keep in mind that you come first. So she would constantly, every time I would think of that particular breakup or that situation, there was always a lot of what if situations. She'd be like, forget about it. That chapter is closed. Focus on you now. Focus on you now. Focus on you now. She'd constantly bring me back. And then when I had a lot of overwhelming feelings, I would write them down. I wrote a lot, and so that also contributed quite a lot to the whole process of recovery. And I'm really grateful that uh, I got such wonderful community of people, but I also had a lot of support from my family and friends to be able to get out of the situation. And of course, ultimately I'm grateful that I came across your videos. And even though initially I didn't quite understand the whole concept of self-love, self love addiction, or limerence, eventually I was able to piece it all together. And then I came out of this whole uh, situation, and I found a lot of contentment in myself at this point. So yeah, that's basically my story.
Wow. It is such a progression, isn't it? Like just, and I'm glad you mentioned limerence and love addiction and narcissism because this is what a lot of people are going through and what a lot of people, like you're saying, you're watching, manifest your ex back, manifest your specific person. And, some people's exes and specific people are good people, and some people's exes and SPs are, let's say, not so good people. So you've got to work out what do I need to work on, and can I look at them clearly? And is this someone that's really worthy of bringing back into my life?
Yes.
So, and I do agree with you. There are some videos that, manifest your ex back in 3 hours or get them obsessed with you. And I mean, I'll be honest, I just absolutely am repulsed by those kind of videos. I agree with you. I think they do a lot more damage than good. And anyone that does not work on their self love or know that that's an important thing eventually hits the wall and has to learn it through pain. And
Yep.
if you can learn about self love and look at your own obsession, your neediness, your abandonment, all the stuff within you that comes from childhood, and you sort that out first, then
Mhm.
you can go on to have a wonderful relationship. And if your ex and your SP was a decent human being that, has evolved as well, no problem. Because a new relationship, in a way, you take you with you. So even if you don't go for the X or the SP, if they were decent, you can still attract the same qualities, good or bad, in the next person. It doesn't matter. You have to have
True.
yourself in the best mental and emotional and spiritual place to
Yes.
have a good experience in any relationship, ex or new. So
Hmm.
I'm really glad you brought up the limerence and the narcissism and the love addiction. And I've done some videos and playlists on that before, and I'm going to
Yes.
put those down in the description for people to go back and revisit because it's important to look at yourself clearly and to look at, okay, where am I at with all of this? As the years go by, I need to be more honest with myself and to disconnect from all that bright, shiny object, quick fix nonsense, because a lot of it is nonsense,
Hmm.
and really do the work and do the inner work. And self love is for life. It's like once you go on the journey,
Absolutely.
you don't. I do see, Jen, that people, they say they're in a relationship, they have a breakup, they really crash and burn into depression and massive suffering and pain and abandonment. Then they find the self love at some point. Those that do the self love and then attract a relationship back, whether it's the same person or someone else, usually what happens is they drop the self love. They drop it because they're getting the high from the external again. But once you lose it a second time, the relationship, that's when you make a stronger commitment to not drop it again because
Hmm.
you've experienced the pain once, then you've experienced the high, then you've experienced the pain again, and then you go, hang
Hmm.
on, I never want to come back to this place again. I knew better and I still didn't commit. I didn't honor my commitment to myself. So it's like you do learn the massive importance of self love and
True.
continuation.
Hmm.
Usually, again, the hard way, but
True.
you know, when you've
Yeah.
done self love for a year or two or three or five or 10, and you realize how good you feel, no
Hmm.
one and nothing is worth giving that up for. No, no
Right.
one.
Yes. And
So,
I do want to mention that uh, sometimes people mistaken self-love to self-coddling. I mean, it's of course it's important that you uh, uh, take care of your skin and your nails
Yeah.
and everything on a regular basis. But I think it's also important that you do the hard work, like the dirty work.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if you promise yourself that you're going to get up at this particular time and then go exercise, you have to do it. If you're
Yeah.
going to tell yourself that, it's like self fidelity. If you
Yes.
promise something, you have to do it. And
Yeah.
I have manifested much more previously in my life, and I have observed that when I have been self fidel, I don't know if that's the word, when I
Yes.
have practiced self fidelity, that's when I started to attract things much quicker.
Yeah.
When I was in control of the things that I could control, the things that I couldn't control but wished for, they started to align so quickly.
Yes.
And that's also part of self love.
It really is. If you feel happy, relaxed, secure, that's when things come. Because it's like when people aren't manifesting, they all have something in common. It's they're anxious, they're stressed, they're always looking to the future, and they're looking for shortcuts in how to get to where they want to go, to that desire. So
Right.
all that energy, depression, anxiety, um, the neediness, the abandonment, unfortunately, and I wish it was different, but it's not, those energies, those emotions repel. They do. And
Yes.
it is, I'm glad you mentioned the emotional scale, because there is on Google, if you put in Abraham Hicks emotional scale, there's lots of photographs of that scale on Google, and you can actually
Hmm.
see it and say, okay, where am I today? I'm at, anger, like you said, but I'm going to work my way through my emotions through journaling, through exercise, getting rid of the anger, through, screaming into a pillow if you've got rage, whatever it is, get that stuff out of your body. And then you come back to
Absolutely.
peace and relaxed security. You come back to it.
Yes.
So I'm
Absolutely.
so thrilled. So when you broke up, how long ago was that now?
Oh, it's been a year now.
A year,
Exactly a
only a
year.
year. Wow, you've done some
Yes.
good work in a short amount of time. A year sounds
Oh,
long, but I know people that are still 5 years down the track, still in anguish about an ex. So when you do this work, it does accelerate the quickness of getting to a better place mentally and emotionally. And you
mhm.
feel that you've really let things go. So well done to you. A year. That's
Oh,
great.
thank you.
Mm.
But I would always compare uh, this to the length of the relationship. It was only 6 months, and then the
Yeah.
recovery took 9 months. So I would always think, I should have, recovered quicker than that. But it's okay. It was a
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
And I
You get more
remember,
relaxed, don't you? You're like, oh
yeah,
well, okay, 6 months, 8 months, a year. I'm recovering, so I'm gonna
yes,
be okay with my recovery time.
absolutely. And I think that, in a way, the universe kind of helped me cut my losses
Yes.
because if imagine if I had come down and then we'd uh, gotten together and then I'd spent a couple of more months in that kind of a wrong dynamic, I think the damage would have been much more, I suppose. So I think the universe kind of helped me cut my losses much early on, to be
Yeah.
honest.
That's so great. What a beautiful self-love recovery story. It really is just, and I think there'll be a lot of people that are in these situations now that haven't come out of it yet or still want to be in it that will hear this,
Right,
and I'm sure it'll be very good information for them.
for
Thank
sure.
you, John. Thank
Thank you.
you.
And before I let you go,
Yeah.
I do want to mention two other things that I had practiced. I just it just
Yes.
popped in my
Yes.
head.
Go ahead.
One is gratitude. Uh,
Yeah.
you can say meditation or just chanting. This is something somebody had recommended. I'm optimistic that it's going to help other people because it helped me. Uh, every night before before I went to sleep, I would always they told somebody told me think of all of the things that you can be grateful for, and
Mm,
think of the smallest of things that you can be grateful for. Something like be grateful for the food that you had, be grateful that somebody opened the door for you, be grateful even that the fact that the transport in your city worked. Be
yes.
grateful down to that. As you're being
Mm,
grateful, somehow even without realizing, you go, you get to your sleep state.
yeah.
But it really works at the back of your mind to align your thoughts in a very beautiful way.
Mm,
And I think it's really important that we, like they say, count our blessings, because we are so focused on the thing that we do not have that we forget all of the things that we do have. And it's important that we be grateful for the
yeah.
things that we have. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. And the other thing that I just realized, was that I would imagine myself being this golden light inside me. And because I was always giving to people, I was expecting from people, some sense of validation, or it somehow seemed like my energy was scattered, like
Mm,
the golden light or the golden glitter that I had within me, it was depleting, and all I could see was that the glitter was moving away from me. So I would visualize that this glitter that was all moving away would slowly start to come back to me. It would slowly
mm,
start to come back to me. It was more like, the energy that's mine is, preserved inside me. It
yeah.
doesn't just gets expended uh, unnaturally or in directions that it's not necessary. So I would
Yeah.
slowly start to, visualize this as well, and I think that also helped me quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a nice visual that it's coming back because I do think a lot of people that I come across in the work that I do are overgivers. You
Hmm.
know, they overgive, they deplete, they're exhausted, but they're still giving to others. And that's a type of self-abuse.
Yep.
So it's like learning to, okay, I'll give, but when I feel that my tank is topped up, when I feel I have enough to give, and if I don't have enough, I'll say, look, I can't help right now, but I'll let you know when I can. And
Hmm.
you don't just say yes to everybody all the time. And,
Absolutely.
I think saying the word, I just not, I can't right now, but I will soon, or I'll let you know when I can. So, and in the meantime, they might go and ask someone else, but we're not put on the planet to have to meet everyone's needs all the time. And it's
Hmm.
knowing that, and overgiving isn't a good place to be giving from because you're not doing it with a full heart. You're doing
Yep.
it with a empty tank and sometimes a little bit resentfully. So,
Hmm.
and that's not good for your system to do things from that place. Resentment
Yep.
poisons you. It's not
Yes.
good fertilizer for your being. So, yeah, it's good lessons to learn. And self-love has so many facets, doesn't it? It's so many
Yes.
different things. Like you said, it's not
Yes.
nails and hair and skin. I mean, we got to look after ourselves, but that's only the physical level. There's the mental and emotional level that I think we really do need to put more focus on.
Absolutely.
Not depleting the battery down to zero and then minus. I mean, I know
Hmm.
these days when I sort of hit 50%, I go, I need to stop. What is it I need right now? I need to go for a walk in the fresh air. I need to be, in the bath and really relax and soak my body. I need to lay on the couch and switch my phone off and watch something that I enjoy. And you just, when your battery goes down, it's like, okay, it's going down. Now let me build it back up. It doesn't have to hit zero before I build it
Hmm.
back up.
Right.
50%, the red light is starting to come on very softly, but okay, now let me build it back up. I don't need to crash and burn to zero because that's when people create a lot of dramas in
True.
relationships. You know, I you don't do this for me, you don't do that for me. It's like, well, you're not doing it for yourself, the look, self-care and the
Hmm.
self-love. And then
Hmm.
you go into being well, you don't regulate your speech, what you say, how you say it, and you create dramas in relationships with people. So
Right.
if you top up before you hit too low, you rarely have any of that anymore. It's fantastic.
True. True.
Well, thank you, Jan. Do you want to say anything to say goodbye to people before we sign off?
Yes, I would like to send my positive energy to all those people that are watching
Yeah.
and whoever is in that desperate state. I really hope my story has inspired them, and I hope they get better and better and slowly evolve to be uh, and a person of really high energy. Yeah.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you. And thank you for mentioning all those different things that you use, people you watched, things that helped you. I think people can then go and look those things up and then, get some more. Well, it's the fertilizer, it's the
Yes.
marinade for us. So thank you for mentioning
Yes.
those things. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this discussion. If you made it this far and you need more help, all the info is down below in the description for you. Jan, you stay on, and I'm going to stop the recording. Bye, everyone. See you in the next YouTube.